KNAB and TDA. Rising power in Sagaing and Chin State, the frontier between Myanmar's Chin State and Sagaing region has become one of the most turbulent theatres of conflict in recent years. Among the actors shaping this volatile landscape are two organisations rooted in the Kuki Thadu community: the Kuki National Army, Burma, KNAB, and the Thadu Defense Army, TDA. Their activities, stretching from the rugged hills of Tonzang Township to the forested belts of Sagaing, have increasingly drawn attention not only because of their frequent clashes with rivals, but also due to their growing capacity, discipline, and the territories they now control. These groups are not isolated outfits lingering on the fringes. They represent well-organized entities with trained cadres, advanced weapons, and a keen understanding of both the terrain and the politics that surround them. As Myanmar's civil war deepens and the Indo-Myanmar border remains porous, the KNAB and TDA have emerged as decisive forces in defining the security landscape of the region. The expanding strength of KNAB. One of the most striking features of the KNAB today is the size and quality of its manpower. Independent reports now estimate the group's cadre strength at over 600 fighters. This makes it one of the largest armed entities operating among the Kuki Chin belt of Myanmar. What sets the KNAB apart is not only its numbers, but also its preparation. Between 400 and 600 personnel have undergone formal military training in Kachin State, where some of Myanmar's most battle-hardened ethnic forces operate. In those training grounds, KNAB fighters were drilled in guerrilla warfare, jungle survival, ambush tactics, use of explosives, and more recently, the operation of drones for reconnaissance and combat roles. This has dramatically raised their operational capacity, allowing them to stage daring raids, coordinate with allies, and withstand prolonged clashes against both the junta and rival factions. The KNAB has also upgraded its arsenal. Beyond light rifles and machine guns, fighters have reportedly deployed improvised explosive devices, mortars, and increasingly drones adapted for dropping explosives. These weapons have tilted the balance in clashes that might otherwise have favoured rivals with greater resources. Securing territory in Sagaing and Chin, the Sagaing region, especially townships like Tamu, Homolin and Hakamti, has become a stronghold for the KNAB. Reports suggest that they maintain checkpoints, patrols and semi-permanent bases across key routes. Their control is not absolute given the sheer density of competing armed groups, but they have carved out pockets of influence where their authority is recognized. In Chin State's Tonzang Township, the group is especially entrenched. Here, the KNAB has leveraged both local support and terrain familiarity to secure hilltop defenses and valleys that connect to critical cross-border passages. This area, lying close to India's Manipur, is not just a stronghold but also a strategic launchpad for operations, whether against the Myanmar junta or rival factions. One reason their hold has remained firm is their ability to build tactical alliances. In multiple operations across 2024 and early 2025, KNAB cadres have been seen working alongside the Kachin Independence Army, KIA, and local People's Defense Forces, PDFs. These collaborations have resulted in the capture of junta positions, such as the Aungja base, and in coordinated offensives in Tamu Township. Each joint victory has further consolidated KNAB's credibility in the resistance ecosystem. Confrontations along the border. Yet, their rise has not been without fierce opposition. From late 2024 into 2025, clashes between the KNAB and rival groups, particularly Manipur-based armed outfits and Naga factions, have intensified along the Indo-Myanmar border, especially near border pillars 85 to 87. The violence has been deadly. Reports indicate that over 30 KNAB fighters have been killed in these repeated confrontations, alongside casualties from the rival side. The use of drones in these skirmishes, alongside well-placed ambushes, marks a new chapter in the conflict. Battles are no longer about crude skirmishes, but increasingly about tactical sophistication. A chilling example came in January 2025, when a senior organizer of a rival faction was abducted and later killed, allegedly by KNAB operatives near Moreh. This incident highlighted both the volatility of the region and the growing willingness of groups to cross red lines in their struggle for dominance. The role of the Thadu Defense Army. Compared to the KNAB, the Thadu Defense Army, TDA, has remained less visible in media headlines, but within Chin State it plays a crucial role. Centered in Thado inhabited areas, the TDA has acted as a defensive bulwark, focusing on protecting local communities from both junta incursions and rival groups attempting to encroach on their territory. The TDA is smaller than the KNAB, but no less determined. Its fighters, often operating in platoon-sized units, are reported to be well-versed in ambushes and terrain-based defenses. Their presence ensures that Thadu villages, especially in vulnerable border districts, have armed protection. Significantly, there is evidence that the TDA coordinates tactically with the KNAB, particularly when facing common threats. Joint patrols, intelligence sharing and occasional cooperative operations against junta convoys have been noted. This partnership reinforces both groups and adds weight to the wider resistance network in Chin State. Training, discipline and modernization. The training dimension deserves emphasis. With hundreds of cadres trained in Kachin State, the KNAB has effectively professionalized what was once a lightly armed militia. These fighters are drilled in squad-level tactics, map reading, night maneuvers, and coordinated assaults. The exposure to KIA's methods, one of the most experienced ethnic forces in Myanmar, has instilled a discipline that distinguishes them from many smaller, less organized outfits. The TDA, though lacking the same scale of external training, benefits from shared exercises with KNAB units and local PDF groups. This cross-pollination of tactics ensures that their fighters are not isolated or outdated. In fact, TDA units have shown increasing confidence in taking on junta patrols and surviving counterstrikes. Both organizations also maintain supply chains through cross-border channels. While details remain opaque, it is clear that they have managed to acquire sufficient arms and ammunition to sustain repeated battles. Drone warfare, in particular, reflects both adaptation and innovation. The human terrain. Secured communities. Numbers and weapons tell only part of the story. Equally important is the ground they hold. The KNAB is known to maintain control across several Kuki inhabited villages in Sagaing, where they provide both defense and a semblance of administration. Residents reportedly rely on them for protection against rival groups and junta raids. In Chin State, the TDA plays a similar role, especially in villages vulnerable to attacks. The presence of armed patrols deters incursions and reassures civilians that they are not abandoned. While their control does not amount to a parallel state, it represents a de facto authority that cannot be ignored in the conflict mosaic. Strategic crossroads. Indo-Myanmar implications. The rise of these groups has deep implications for neighboring India, particularly Manipur. Authorities there have expressed alarm at the spillover of violence and the alleged presence of Myanmar-based fighters in Indian territory. The termination of ceasefire agreements with some Kuki organizations reflects this unease. For India, the KNAB's growth is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, its clashes with Manipur-based insurgents indirectly weaken groups that Delhi sees as a threat. On the other hand, its cross-border activities risk destabilizing already tense border districts. The TDA, while less entangled in Indian politics, is nonetheless part of this equation, as its Chin-based fighters operate close to borderlands where oversight is thin. The road ahead. The situation is far from static. With 600 trained fighters, strongholds in Sagaing and Chin, and alliances with major resistance forces, the KNAB is positioned to remain a formidable actor for the foreseeable future. The junta's attempts to reassert control over these regions have so far been met with fierce resistance. Airstrikes and artillery bombardments may temporarily dislodge fighters, but the terrain and local support allow them to regroup swiftly. The KNAB's training and discipline in particular suggests that they can endure even as battles intensify. For civilians, this dual presence of KNAB and TDA represents both protection and uncertainty. Protected communities may survive junta raids, but they remain caught in the larger vortex of Myanmar's unending conflict. The KNAB and TDA are no longer fringe actors. They are central players in the struggle for control over northern Chin State and Sagaing's Kuki areas. With over 600 fighters, advanced training for the majority of their cadres, and control of vital territories, the KNAB has become a force that neither the junta nor rival groups can ignore. Alongside them, the TDA maintains a steady role in defense and tactical cooperation. Together, they symbolize the persistence of ethnic resistance in Myanmar's borderlands, fueled by identity, necessity, and survival. Disclaimer from Zalengam Media. This report is based on available verified news sources and open reports. It is intended for information and analysis only. Zalengam Media does not endorse or promote any armed group or their activities.